Now, also maybe because we're not gonna have eyes.
There's also an ad to do.
Oh, okay.
Hold on. Wanna find if you search for Lainey in the Guides to the Unknown email, it should come up, but let's just take a look at it.
When are we doing Bethany's thing?
In a couple weeks.
Okay.
Excuse me.
Bless you. How do you spell Lainey?
Lanie. It's very short, what she just sent us. Oh, wait a second. Actually, she sent an audio promo.
Hi, I'm Lainey,
Oh.
host of the True Crime
All right,
Family
never mind. So I'll
podcast,
just put that.
and I'm excited to tell you about my brand new podcast called It's Haunted. What Now?
Okay, so I'll just insert that into the show.
Okay.
guess.
We can even in the when we do our mid-show thing, just kind of be like, this episode is brought to you by
Yeah.
It's Haunted. What now? And then leave
Yeah. Okay.
chunk of space, and
Yep.
then yeah.
Okay. All right, never mind.
Yeah.
Great.
We're good.
Okay. Hello, welcome to Guides to the Unknown. I'm Kristen.
And I'm her little brother William.
And this week we're going to be talking about the SCP Foundation. Wait, what
The
is
much often requested SCP Foundation.
Is that correct? Yes, the SCP Foundation.
It is the SCP Foundation. Yeah. A lot of people have wanted us to do this for a long time.
Really? Mm-hmm. Oh.
It's been on our list for a while, and we just did a planning session like we do at the top of every month on patreon.com/gttupod.
That's right.
And it came up again.
I thought that was like the second time it had come up.
No, I've seen it. You know, I'm not going to say that people are like knocking on our door
Right.
to remind us or
Right.
something like that.
SCP.
But it's come up quite a few times, and I had zero awareness of it.
Me neither. I had absolutely no clue what this is. And it's so popular and so extensive. Like, it's so cool how many things there are out there. Like, I had absolutely no clue that this existed. And it's this whole ecosystem and world that some people are super duper into.
Yeah, it seems like it's been like an underground organization of people writing creepypastas all for a
Right.
purpose.
Yeah.
So this is the notice for all of you who are into SCP. You are no longer underground, is no longer cool, because Kristen and I know about it now.
We're uprooting you.
Do you
We
wanna-
are dorks and we know.
Exactly. You don't want to be a part of any club that'll have us.
Yeah, you've made a huge mistake. But I was thinking that that's one of the things that's so cool about this show. I don't know that it would ever have crossed my path, or I definitely wouldn't have looked into it as heartily as I did without this. And it's such a delight. I'm so glad that I got to find out about it.
Completely agreed.
So I'm going to start us off. I'm going to tell us kind of the who, what, when, where, why, and how of it. Maybe not all of those, but a bunch of those.
Okay.
And then you, William, will be telling us about some of the coolest SCP files and stories that you have come across.
That is correct. And I found some doozies.
Yeah. Anyway, it's just crazy. I can't believe what a big thing this is that I was completely ignorant of.
Yeah.
So maybe you at home or in your car are also ignorant of it, and let me tell you what it is. So first of all, SCP stands for Secure, Contain, Protect. And it is this fictional secret organization that, in the plot line of it, is in cahoots with governments worldwide to find and contain people, creatures, entities, objects, and even locations that, quote-unquote, violate natural law. So it could really be anything that just isn't right, doesn't make sense in some way, doesn't, operate the way that it is supposed to. So in this world, the idea is that if they weren't to contain these things, chaos would ensue. So not only are these objects or things a threat to human life, but if we knew about them, or if the public at large knew about them, it would disrupt our perception of the world as we know it. So if people are just aware that there are portals and stuff, it's bad news. We all know about the laws of nature and physics the way that we are now, or that they are now, and were we to find out that there's proof that things work also in a different way, that it would be total anarchy.
Yeah, it's
and
funny.
Fear.
Some of the examples of things that I'm going to bring up later include a haunted television, where it's all right, this organization captured a haunted television
They
to
did.
protect us all from seeing that. You know what I mean? But How do you even decide what's not normal?
Yeah. I mean, they say that there are conspiracy theorists who think that there's been hard evidence of extraterrestrial intelligent life for a long time, that the government is keeping it from us so that we don't flip out. It's basically the same kind of premise. I think that in the world of this, it makes sense to contain a ghostly television.
I'm not
because it's
saying,
like proof that ghosts exist.
I guess. I'm not really saying that it doesn't make sense, but even calling it what I found, it's not even necessarily a ghostly television. It's just a lot of these things seem to defy explanation.
Yeah.
A lot of them seem to defy conventional categorization of paranormal events.
Yes.
Some things that I'll talk about may seem like aliens or ghosts or zombies or things like that, but per the SCP's guidelines, they aren't. So what are these things? And what would the world be for the worse if we found out that Bigfoot is real? Like, what would that fundamentally change?
I don't know. I mean, Bigfoot being real is probably not the best example because it would just be like, oh, there's a new species of thing that we didn't know about.
Right.
But maybe if it was proof of aliens living among us or something like that.
Yeah.
It's hard for you to imagine that it would be like a thing in a movie where there's mass chaos and the streets are flooded with people and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But I guess some bad stuff could come of that. I guess what I think about is people finding a way to make money off of those things.
Oh.
And maybe they go about that in nefarious ways or something.
Oh, so it makes sure that people don't form a black market around these arcane
Kind of, maybe.
happenstances.
Maybe.
It's interesting. I think that there's room for debate in the how necessary an organization like this might be, and
Right.
what are their causes. And really, something that I just kept thinking about through all of the stuff that I read is who's making the determination of what's normal or not? What's allowed to get by?
Yeah. I mean, I guess it's probably fairly simple. Things that stray from our natural laws would fit into an SCP thing,
All right, fair enough.
right?
Yeah.
Anything that's just beyond the normal.
Yes, I think that is a very good button to put on it. Mm-hmm. But I did read a few. Some of them I don't even have cited here, so I have a straw man argument where I don't even have anything to lean on. But some of the things I read were subtle things. Where it's just here's a shirt that always feels tight.
Oh, really?
That's not a real thing, but it was stuff like that, and it's does that really count? Does that really?
Well, I guess you have to think about the
All
source.
things are
then.
a spectrum.
Yes, definitely all things are a spectrum. And then I guess you have to think about the source, because is it really that I don't know if there have been experiments done. Is it really that's a shirt that's always tight, or is it that somebody is putting that on who that's the wrong size for?
I guess, yeah.
So
You
they're
got
calling
to test
it that.
and decide if it's an SCP-worthy containment thing. Yeah.
Right, exactly.
Okay.
So maybe in this world, maybe this doesn't actually happen, but you could say theoretically, maybe they're called out to examine an object and they're like, no, this doesn't fall under
Doesn't
SCP.
count.
This person is just, reading more into this than is there.
Right. Yeah. True. Yeah, I think you're right about that. Really what I think of is that scene in Men in Black where Will Smith is in that gun shooting range and everyone's shooting all the scary aliens, and then he shoots the one little girl who's carrying an astrophysics book, and he's like, that book is way too advanced for her. What is she doing in this neighborhood?
Yeah.
There's a monster hanging from the streetlight, but there's a piece of paper in his hands. Maybe that's a tissue.
Yeah,
Maybe that's Kleenex and he's got a sneeze. Just because you look like a monster doesn't mean you are one.
Yeah.
So I guess that's really my argument of
True.
who's deciding
Yes.
what goes in these containment units.
Right.
Yes.
True. And I think in a realistic way, I don't think anybody is, because you can just submit whatever,
Oh, true.
as I
Yes.
understand.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wonder if there is anything that would kick somebody off of submitting an SCP, because I don't think that there are quality guidelines or anything.
I don't
think
know.
you can
It
just
seems-
I think you can just straight up just add something to the database.
I agree.
But then there's an upvote or downvote system on the website.
Right.
So it'll be popular or not. I'm sure there are things that are just kind of clunkers that nobody talks about, but there are SCP files that are really awesome that got upvoted a million times.
Yeah.
So I guess they just all exist in there.
Yeah, you can for sure look at the lowest rated
Mm-hmm.
SCP stories submitted by users.
Yeah.
And I was hoping to find fun bad stuff. I didn't. It just ended up being dull stuff.
That's what
But
I
yeah.
read, that some of them can just get kind of dull and dry,
Right.
and stuff like that. But I know it's very interesting the way this all works, and even the in-game so to speak, kind of story behind it. Yeah, like what qualifies this for sure
like-
as an SCP.
Exactly. It's like brilliant and fascinating, this whole thing.
Yeah, it's so cool. So, whatever the supernatural thing is known as an SCP itself, which is like a little bit confusing. It's just kind of a colloquial thing that it's the SCP Foundation, but then we call those things SCPs, even though that stands for Secure, Contain, Protect. You just kind of go with it.
Yeah.
So the organization kind of works quietly, is the way that the story goes. They either retrieve SCPs to study or contain on location if it's not possible. So they either retrieve them, bring them back to their facilities so that they can perform tests, or if it's something that's too huge to bring back, they find a way to like neutralize the threat wherever it is. You know what? I should have looked more into this. This is kind of on me. I also read on Wikipedia that they use test subjects to interact with the most dangerous SCPs. And those are referred to as the D class, who are seen as expendable.
That makes a certain amount of sense given what I've read. I'll give you like a very brief example.
Yeah.
There is a monster that I'll tell you about in a little bit that can basically like kill you on touch. They sometimes need to change where they store this monster.
Okay.
Because not only can it kill you on touch, everything it touch starts to rot.
Uh-huh.
So even the room that it's in will just slowly start to decay.
Oh.
So you can never permanently lock it in something, even if it's a lead-lined room.
Yeah.
Gradually over time, it'll start to degrade.
So it's kind of like how you need to keep Magneto in like a totally plastic room.
Yes, exactly. But like occasionally, like let's say that Magneto's, quarters became contaminated.
Mm-hmm.
And they
Or
need to
his security guard had too much iron in his blood.
Oh my God. That's fodder for some good storytelling. But like for this monster, they will try to lure it into a new lead-lined container by putting a victim in there.
Oh.
Here, you can come
okay.
kill this guy.
Yeah.
Because it loves to kill and make people rot and stuff.
So it's part of the D class.
Yeah, they literally like will use somebody to lure a monster, and I guess it's part of doing the job.
Yeah.
It's in service of the greater good. Can't let this thing go.
So do you think that those are people who volunteer and they're like, okay, I'm D class, I just know what's up? Because I wanted to look into like who is the D class?
Gotcha,
How
yeah.
are these people? But I didn't do it. I'm sorry.
I also don't have that answer. My because SCP is all about just imagining something and then it becomes part of the canon.
Right.
If this isn't already there, here's what it should be.
Okay.
People volunteer to be in this. They're accepted. They're called agents, and then they find out whether or not they were D-class or not.
I mean,
By
yes.
just like, oh my God, you're feeding me to this creature.
Yeah. Oh my God. Turns out. Well, I guess it could be kind of like the military or something, where you're all serving a purpose, and then some of you, it's almost a given that they know some of any military, if they're going to war, is probably going to die.
Right.
So maybe it's like some sort of messed up lottery system, like the Hunger Games.
Oh God.
Where like some people get the D class.
The monster games.
Yeah, the monster games. So obviously they need to carefully document these SCPs, these things, and then this is where things get interactive. So what I just told you is the construct of the story, and then within that, real life people kind of take it and run with it because they submit SCP files to the website scpwiki.com, which is so extensive.
Yeah.
And Will, did you find out if what you asked me today was intentional or not about the spider?
No, I don't know.
Oh boy. So Will texted me today and he was like, hey, when you went to the SCP website, did like a spider graphic go down the right side of it? And I said, not that I remember. I don't think so. I could have looked away or something.
Yeah.
And so Will thinks that there may have been a real spider.
I still don't know because I tried to see it. It looked as if a spider had dangled down just above my desk. And it so it's just like as if it's gliding down on its own string, you
Right.
know? And it glided down the right side of my monitor, like in front of my monitor, but it looked like it could have been part of the website doing that to freak me out. I started searching all over my desk to see if this gnarly spider, we've got huge spiders here, Kristen.
know.
Yeah, I've got some big spiders at this
Yeah.
house. I was like, I don't want this thing on my desk. I have a lot of work I got to do, and I can't do it if I'm thinking that I'm going to feel something touching, like the hair on my fingers as I'm typing or something. Like, no.
God.
Couldn't find the spider, and I couldn't replicate it on the website. I don't know, but I wouldn't put it past them to just, like, have something creep across the screen.
Yes.
It felt like old internet.
Yeah.
It doesn't
did.
feel like something that happens anymore, but that feels like old internet stuff to just have a little Easter egg of a creature drop down.
That certainly does. And also the website just kind of feels old internet-y. But also I wouldn't put it past your house because remember a spider came and fell on me when we were recording one time
That's right.
and I made an insane noise.
Yeah, I forgot about
I was
that.
like, caw-caw-caw, basically. It was so weird.
Yeah.
Do you have big spiders like outside, inside your house?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Uh-huh. Yesterday,
I got to get out of here.
Why?
I hate spiders.
Yeah. My storm door here that opens up to the backyard, when you open it now, there's like a little spider that it's like, it makes me think of crabs. It's so big. When you open the door, it gets all
That just
agitated.
gave me a, ew, William.
People
I hate
eat crabs.
that.
You eat crabs.
Yeah, I know.
Disgusting. So when you open the storm door, it scares the spider or it gets all angry. Like, why are you agitating my web and my strings?
Yeah.
So when you open these metal doors that go into my backyard, it just starts running back and forth really, really fast. Scares me each time.
This is freaking me out.
There's a great big spider on my back porch that likes to build its web not like against the side of the house, but in the open space. It looks like
I'm
it's
well
trying
aware.
Looks like it's trying to catch like a bird.
Yeah.
You know, like it builds in like a high traffic area.
It's practically big enough to catch a bird. That spider is big.
Disturbing.
Yeah, I don't like it at all.
Yeah.
Anyway. So.
Oh, wow. You're getting verklempt.
I am. I don't like creepy crawly things or slippy slidey things. I don't like any of
I
it.
agree.
So probably no spider on the website, but definitely go to scpwiki.com and tell us if you see a spider drop down the right side. Not completely impossible.
I Googled it.
Kinda
I didn't see
curious.
anything. It
Okay.
might just have been a spider that dangled right above my head and fell on my desk.
Oh my God. But anyway, go check it out because that's where all these SCPs are housed. And it is so extensive. So the way that they're written is like they are files in a folder or something. It's like a faux academic tone, as though they're actual case files that a real organization is putting together just for the purpose of documenting things. So they're not even short story style smooth narratives, but sort of factual in the way that they're written. They even contain redacted sections to make them look extra authentic, and some of them have images, and it's really awesome. And I say this not as a derogatory thing. It's not consistent. So some files you click on, it's kind of bare bones. Some of them, they have images and they have their own like logos for SCP and all this really, really cool stuff. And so it kind of just speaks to how involved that writer is and how much they want to put into it. It's really pretty awesome. So each SCP is given a case number. So when you go to the website and you're looking at them, it'll be like SCP-173. And then from there you click on it and you can read the file. And so I have two examples here from the website so that you guys can get a taste of what we're talking about, and then Will's going to hit us with a bunch of cool ones later. So this is SCP-145. And when you click on the file, it says item number, SCP-145, object class, safe. Special containment procedures, and then it's the story. SCP-145 is stored in low security locker 17 at Site 21. No flammable materials or sources of open flame are to be brought within 5 meters of SCP-1045 except for testing purposes. Description: SCP-1045 is a square wood-framed candle lantern measuring 15 centimeters by 15 centimeters by 32 centimeters. Its sides are made of translucent waxed paper, and its interior framework provides a nested support for a circular glass cup measuring 6.5 centimeters in diameter and 10 centimeters in height. So just like they're given all the facts, just like you would. The anomalous properties of SCP-1045 do not manifest unless both components are used together. When a candle is placed within SCP-1045 and lit, the walls of SCP-1045 depict the shadow of a miniature humanoid, as if lit from behind by the candle. The shadow on each side of the lantern depicts a different angle of the same subject. The shadow of the humanoid is always writhing, as if in pain, and it is surrounded by what appear to be semi-opaque flames. The shadow of the figure will persist as long as the candle is burning. Its motions become more frantic as the candle comes closer to burning out. All candle residue recovered from SCP-1045 consists of rendered human fat, regardless of the original makeup of the candle. Damaged DNA samples have been recovered, but the identity of the source individual or individuals has yet to be determined. Addendum: Testing has revealed that burning scented candles produces shadows of different figures. In addition, burning a scented candle allows the shadows to emit sound. The volume of the sound is dependent on the strength of the scent. To date, all shadows have only produced incoherent screams.
Wow. It's interesting.
Yeah.
That in particular, where did you find that one? Why that one?
I Googled short SCPs.
Oh, okay.
And then it brought up a Reddit or something like that. I have it in the show notes, and I clicked around and found ones that were cool.
All right. Yeah. See, that's awesome. And that speaks to something that, like, I know I've, like, harped on this notion a million times over the course of this show.
Mm-hmm.
Horror that is incomprehensible.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I love seeing what Ash goes through on The Evil Dead, because, what are these things and how do they really work? They're zombies, but they're demons, but they're also physically loved ones that have been transformed. I don't really know what's happening. Why is that, deer's head on the wall laughing? What's making this happen at all?
Just bad stuff's happening. Weird stuff is happening.
Right. And this is fun because it is a clinical approach to understanding the inherently incomprehensible.
Yeah.
A candle that burns and the shadow it throws is of a person in pain, and no matter what the candle was, it is human fat.
Yep.
When you examine it. Okay, what are we going to do with that information? I don't know.
We don't know. It's
good thing we've got it here and not out there in the world.
Just the facts. Maybe some of them are different, but just the facts. Not an explanation. There are some that are very, very long and have tons of addendums and even have like transcripts of phone calls that are artificial and things like that. But my understanding is that in general, it's just examining this object or thing without necessarily a conclusion as to why it's like that.
Exactly. And so it's fun to like see that clinical approach when they can only take it so far.
Right.
They can give you the dimensions of that lantern, but they
Yes.
cannot tell you who the person is that's being cast on the wall. They don't.
Right.
There's certain things that are just unknown, and I love that.
Right. And different scented candles provide different screaming sounds.
It's a little
like-
absurd.
Yeah.
It's a little funny.
Yes, and that
You
was
know?
something that I was surprised by and enjoy, that it's kind of lighthearted, it seems like.
Yeah.
It's not like, again, it varies because this is user submitted, so I'm sure some of them could get really deep, but it seems like the general tone of this is a little bit light and a little bit goofy.
Yeah.
Doesn't get too dark. So here's just another one as an example. I'm just going to jump right to the special containment procedures. Reports of SCP-2365 are to be investigated and data analyzed for evidence of connections or common factors between victims. Survivors of SCP-2365 and witnesses are to be interviewed, tested, and amnesticized.
Amnesticized.
Interesting. There are some typos in this one. Maybe they mean like amnesia, like they're
Anesthetized.
No, but I think they mean like neuralized. Like amnesticized sounds like amnesia to me.
How do you spell it?
AMNESTICIZED.
Okay.
It's coming up as a misspelled thing.
Amnesthetized.
Yeah, look, it's in the SCP Reddit.
Yeah, it comes. That word brings you right to the SCP.
So it's a thing.
Yeah. So it does seem to have maybe something to do with amnesia.
Yeah, like wiping out
Amnesthetized.
their memories.
Yeah. Okay.
I think it's a Men in Black neuralized thing.
Okay.
Foundation front companies are to conduct sleep studies, quote unquote, in an attempt to observe and document SCP-2365. While it is not known whether 2365 is mimetic in nature, access to information relating to SCP-2365 is to be restricted. Description: SCP-2365 is a phenomenon affecting certain individuals during REM sleep. Initial stages of 2365 are characterized by the materialization of small flakes of rust in the air above the sleeper and a reduction in local temperature. Recordings during this stage have detected the noise of metal hinges, the source of which has not been determined. If the sleeper is woken during this stage, no further effects are observed. If 2365 is permitted to progress, the initial phenomena will cease and the second stage will commence. Heavy steel springs will materialize in the space adjacent to the sleeper's head. Over the course of 10 to 15 minutes, this will be followed by the slow manifestation of additional metal attachments, forming a large bear trap.
Oh.
The bear trap will remain suspended over the sleeper's head for up to 10 minutes before slowly dematerializing. If the sleeper returns to consciousness during this period, or contact is made with the trap by the sleeper or others, the springs will be triggered, typically leading to significant trauma to the head and neck. The Foundation's understanding of 2365 is based largely on forensics and witness reports. Observation and testing have been restricted to bear traps, which have been triggered and retain material substance into a limited number of 2365 survivors. No pattern has been determined between the identities of victims of 2365, and the number of unobserved cases is difficult to determine. So this is a phenomenon where when you're sleeping, a bear trap slowly materializes, and as long as you stay asleep, you're good. But if you happen to move, it's going to snap on you.
Yeah. All right. Lock that thing up.
Yeah, let's contain and protect from that or whatever. So as of this past July, there were around 5,900 SCP documents, with more being added all the time. And those aren't the only things that are found on spcwiki.com. There's also a section for Foundation Tales, which are stories about the Foundation itself. So kind of like fanfic, although it's all fic, about the staff and or current entities who are housed there. And so those take a more like short story like kind of narrative approach.
Right.
And then the final category of things on the site is a combination of SCP files and Foundation Tales, which are known as canon. So it's a little bit confusing because there isn't really one unifying canon that people have to keep track of or adhere to for when they're writing their SCP files. But some SCP files and Foundation Tales do link up, and so they create their own mini canons within this larger thing. So the canon section of the site gives an overview of those contained plot lines and gives information on their timelines and the characters within them. So there's also a spin-off kind of / sister site that's called The Wanderer's Library that's made up of short stories as opposed to realistic reports. So it's a little bit more fantasy based. And there's also a role-playing community that's playing within the world of SCP. There are also international equivalent sites where people translate these things.
Wow.
It's just this huge thing.
Huge underground.
That, again, I can't believe I wasn't aware of. It's so cool and so humongous.
Yeah.
I love that there are things like that out there. There are other things like this that we don't know about. The internet is awesome.
Yeah, it's true. Like the amount of people who are enabled to write their own stories and submit them and have them be part of this universe, this collective experience. Nothing like this has ever really happened before on this scale in particular.
Yeah, it's so cool to me.
Yeah.
And I think it's really interesting that you don't really know who started it. So we know the username of the person who posted the first SCP, which was SCP-173, and it was posted on 4chan in 2007 on the Paranormal Forum by a user named Moto42. But it's not like when you go to the SCP site, there's not like an about thing that's like, Jonathan Page started this when he submitted a blah, blah, blah. They just, I guess,
they just
don't care. They just did it, and it just kind of got bigger. So it looks like they're just not really looking for glory or anything. There aren't any real figureheads of SCP. But from there, when they posted that on 4chan, it was just such a cool thing that more people started adding SCPs. And then they made their own page for it on the Edit This wiki board. So it's just kind of a housing site for wikis. And then, so they put that and made it its separate thing besides 4chan in 2008, and then later on in 2008 they created their own site, which is the site that's there now, the scpwiki.com, and that's where all the action has been since. It's so cool. And so when you go to the site itself, like we kind of alluded to before, it's old feeling, but it doesn't have necessarily like the cheese factor of old sites that Will and I have talked about really loving on the show before, like old sites that have flash graphics or skulls all over the place or anything. It kind of looks like an old message board.
Yeah, it's a little bare bones.
There's nothing flashy about it, which kind of plays into the storyline, I think, a little bit, because that could make it look kind of official. You know what I mean? Like a government website isn't really having
they don't need
like
the
a spinning
flashiness.
skull or something like that. Like the White House website is just very boring.
Right.
So you really have to want to be there for the content, because it's not really going to hold you there with anything visually exciting, except for some of the files that might have graphics once you decide to dig in. If you're looking to get into it, just know it's a little bit dense. You do kind of have to read a few of them and just sort of go with the flow and understand that you're probably not going to understand some stuff, but you get the gist of it, and the gist is cool and interesting enough that you can just sort of keep going with it. And I thought it was really awesome that also on the website, they have like real-time, real-world seminars and workshops for writers who are into this sort of stuff. Like there's an upcoming creating a narrative workshop that you can attend.
That's interesting. I hadn't noticed that.
Very cool. Yes. Like we said before, it's not generally super hardcore horror, even though the idea of government and files and stuff seems like kind of stiff. It's actually kind of playful. It kind of reminds me a little bit of like Welcome to Night Vale in a way. Sure. Because Welcome to Night Vale, you probably know, is this like very popular podcast. I don't know if it's still going on, but where the idea of it is that it's just kind of a dry local town radio show, but like the mayor is like an octopus or something.
Right.
So stuff like that. So it's within the structure of something that would be official, but then it kind of goes off and is goofy. And I feel like there's some overlap there. And there are even different reviews that were cited on the Wikipedia page for it, referring to it as tongue-in-cheek or lighthearted. And obviously, because they're individually submitted, they kind of vary in tone and quality. But, I mean, that's the general gist of it. And it kind of reminded me of, like, there's a category of books and TV shows that are known as cozy murder mysteries, where you're really more enjoying the, like, detective work of a murder mystery rather than anything super violent or grisly or dark. It's really just like a murder has happened. We acknowledge that. We don't go super far into it. It's usually, you know, not something that's like really sadistic, but we're going to go through and solve it. I feel like this is in a category of like cozy sort of horror or paranormal stuff. It's not too deep and disturbing, but it's still got that sort of flavor that you're going to enjoy if you like that stuff.
That's true. I will say that it seems like because it is user-generated, the stories are as grisly as the authors want to be.
Right. It's going to totally vary, but it sounds like that's the generally agreed upon tone, and I'm sure that there are things that kind of deviate from that.
Yeah, but even to your point about it being such a dense website, one of the things that I saw on there that I really liked was that they have a random button. You can just click a button and it'll take you to a random SCP listing.
Oh, that's cool.
And so if you don't even know where to start, if you don't even know where to look, you can just literally have the website deliver you a random story to see if it's your liking. If it's not, hit random again and go somewhere else. But, you know, having even said that, as dense as that website is and as both inviting and I think hard to get into as the concept is, I'm also going to provide all of you with some that I found that were particularly interesting that might be a gateway for you to get in.
Beautiful. All right, but before we get into William's tantalizing, terrifying tales from the halls of the SCP, let's hear from our week's sponsor. You guys are going to hear a little audio clip from Lainey from It's Haunted, Now What? A really cool podcast. So hang out with Lainey for a little bit and we will be right back. So guys, definitely go check out that show. It's really, really awesome. I've had a really fun time kind of digging into it since I found out about it, and I really think that you will too. So go check out It's Haunted, Now What? Hosted by Lainey. And Lainey, thank you so much for sponsoring this week's show.
Yeah, thank you very much, Lainey. Now, our other sponsor for this week, one of the wildest sponsors of all, is us.
That's right. It's you and me.
Yeah.
Guides to the Unknown is brought to you by William and I and our patrons and supporters of the show. Thank you so much to everybody who has joined us over at patreon.com/GTTUpod, where if you donate $4 or more per month, you get lots of bonuses. There's a special bonus podcast every single month. It comes out on the 13th of the month. There are also extras like videos that we put out, video game playthroughs. I do a weekly look at my notes for each show. We just kind of communicate with people over there in a slightly more personal way. And it's a really, really nice group that we really appreciate. So thank you guys so much, you patrons. You seriously are the sponsors of this show and every show. And if you'd like to donate to us and you haven't yet, yet, please go to patreon.com/gttupod so you can enjoy all that stuff.
Yeah, there's so much there that's exclusive just for people who back us.
There are 105 Patreon exclusive posts right now.
Wow. Yeah, so that's audio shows, that's video shows. That's like these little like one-off things that Kristen and I might do for fun here and there.
Yeah.
It's a little thriving community, and thank you to everybody.
Yeah, thank you.
You can also keep up to date with everything that we are doing through Guide to the Unknown by following at GTTUpod on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. So you're going to see every time there's a new episode of this podcast, Guide to the Unknown. You're going to see when we're going to be doing more live streams in the future. You might catch the next drop of Ghost Adventures when it comes out. If you want to keep in our ecosystem, make sure that you are following at GTTUpod.
Yeah.
You can also join the vocal majority by going to facebook.com/groups/GTTUpod, where you can chat back with us and other people who watch and listen to this show. There are people out there that are posting really fun things that either their love of spooky stuff and horror, things that they're finding, movie conversations, even just memes from around the internet. Like, that's where honestly, the Guide to the Unknown group is becoming one of my major places where I learn about new cool spooky stuff to look at and read.
Yeah, awesome. I watched the movies Creep 1 and Creep 2 last weekend. I've been meaning to forever, but somebody posted about them in the Guide to the Unknown Facebook group, and I was like, you know what? What am I doing tonight? I may as well do it. These people were into it. I might be into it. And guess what? I was into it.
Yeah, it's awesome. It's just a group of people with our taste.
Yeah, right.
Which is ridiculous. Speaking of people with our taste, if you are listening to this podcast and you're liking it, that means that you have good taste.
Yes.
Please consider giving this podcast a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. We are, as of this recording, at 453 reviews.
Oh, thank you.
A 4.7 out of 5.
Not bad.
And that was certainly helped by this most recent review posted by Todo Deku Life. Todo Deku for Life, who said, "Love it. I listened to one episode and I'm already in love. This is a definitely listen."
Awesome.
Thank you so much, Todo Deku for Life.
Yeah, thank you.
And
that's great.
Anyone else who might post a positive review like that, we might just read it on this show. I will definitely read it in my private life, even if we don't read it while we're recording.
Yeah.
I check our reviews like constantly. I like to know what people think about what we're doing.
Mm-hmm.
I know that there are people out there that like to listen to podcasts that have a good reputation, and I certainly like to know that what we're putting out there is stuff that people are enjoying. So please consider leaving a review there.
Yes.
All of these links to all these places, Patreon, Apple Podcasts, the Facebook group, even merch and stuff. You can find links to all those things at the home of Guide to the Unknown, GTTUpod.com.
That's right.
Yeah. Now, let's talk about some more SCP
Let's
listings. Because, Kristen, I went through and tried to find some really standout SCP stories. Why don't we start with the very first one? You already called it out. SCP-173 is the story that started it all.
Yeah, I deliberately didn't look at this.
And I deliberately did.
Look at you.
How about that? So I'm not going to read the whole thing. I'm going to
Okay.
read part of the setup, and then I'm just going to describe to you what this is about. By and large, that's probably what I'm going to end up doing with all of these.
Perfect.
So here is the SCP-173 Special Containment Procedures. Item SCP-173 is to be kept in a locked container at all times. When personnel must enter SCP-173's container, no fewer than 3 may enter at any time, and the door is to be re-locked behind them. At all times, 2 persons must maintain direct eye contact with SCP-173 until all personnel have vacated and re-locked the container. Now, this early story, this very first story, when it was originally posted, was posted alongside a photograph. This photograph seems to show what looks like a containment room. Maybe
Okay.
it's like a garage. I don't know. You can see like metal shutters that would lift up and down like a garage door. And in the photo, in a far corner, is this giant, like it's like 10 foot tall, nude humanoid figure with its hands against the wall.
Okay.
And its weird concrete butt sticking out.
Yeah.
And it's turning and looking at the camera, and it's got giant green eyes. The floor is all red and brown, which the description section of the listing will describe as being covered in blood and feces, and they
Okay.
don't know where any of it came from.
Oh.
But the idea here is that this creature is made out of concrete and rebar. And
Oh, you meant literal concrete butt.
oh, yeah. This thing is a statue.
Oh.
But it's a living statue. So they even say it is constructed from concrete and rebar with traces of Krylon brand spray paint. SCP-173 is animate and extremely hostile. The object cannot move while in a direct line of sight. Hence why
Yeah, you
3
need
people
to-
must need to go in to do anything, and 2 just have to be making eye contact with it so that it won't move.
Oh, man. How's
so-
it making eye contact with both the people?
I think it's just I have to assume that it's just for safety,
it's
right?
fine. Yeah.
What if one of them blinks?
Right.
Oh, I actually think that's one of the things. They say that you have to notify each other when you're going to blink.
Oh, my God.
It's that extreme, which made me think I used to
This is cool.
I used to play Frasier in a murder mystery dinner theater. Let that sink in.
Yeah. I
But-
think we talked about that recently.
I just still can't believe that it's
I
something
know.
that happened and that I did that. But one of the guys that was in the show with me worked for a casino. And he used to tell me about all of the extremely regimented procedures they had in there for handling money and chips and stuff. He said that they'd have to go into a room and hold their hands up, and there were cameras pointed at them at all times, and that they would have to like change their gloves like every hour, and they weren't allowed to change them themselves and stuff. Just like really
Weird.
stiff procedures because you don't really even trust the people who are working for you.
Yeah.
But and I don't know if that's really what's at play here necessarily, but the notion of being like, I'm gonna blink, Ted.
Here it comes.
and Ted being like, I just blinked, okay, go for it.
Yeah, right.
Like the fear involved in
Oh, my
that.
God.
And how regimented it is. It's serious business.
Yes.
Make sure you don't take your eyes off SCP-173.
It's intense.
The other thing that I want to point out here about SCP-173 is that the image of this giant nude humanoid with a concrete butt is not owned by the people who wrote the story. And the SCP Wiki site makes a very clear point of saying this story is in the Creative Commons. You can feel free to reshare it and repost it. But the image is not.
Okay.
The image is of a sculpture titled Untitled 2004. That's the name of it. Untitled 2004 by an artist named Izumi Kato. Izumi Kato has gone on to allow them to post post the image of his statue on the SCP website.
Yeah.
But the story is in the public domain or Creative Commons.
Yeah.
The image is not. Which, reading that, it at least gave me the sense of like, this is all relatively on the up and up.
Yeah.
They're very serious about the rights of
Right.
these stories and who owns them and things
Yeah,
like
like
that.
the ethics of it. Quick question you might not know the answer to. Is the Duty and Blood part of that original like sculpture thing?
The D&B is not D&B.
Okay.
It's red and brown flooring.
okay.
I think that if I had to guess,
Yeah.
the author of that original story saw that image and decided to write a story about it.
Okay.
And it might be the wellspring from all of this because that statue...
Interesting choice of words. Sounds like there was quite a wellspring.
It sure was. There's a leak.
Yeah.
But like the image of it is of this weird humanoid statue in a room with shutters, and the floor looks like it might be dirty and gross.
Okay.
So if you're going to write a story about it,
Yeah,
you
what
might
would
write
you-
a story about it being contained.
Right,
If
right.
you're writing a story about this thing being contained, if this is number 173, other stuff must be contained.
Yeah.
Therefore, the SCP Foundation.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like in a weird
Yeah.
way, it's like, could the original storyteller even have considered the far-flung scope of this?
I think so. Like if I were to do something like that, I probably wouldn't have it be SCP-1. Because
Yeah.
you like the idea that there's an implication that there have been like a lot of other things in this world.
That's true.
But I guess it'd be hard to imagine the scope of like thousands and thousands of people doing this.
That's sort of what I mean. He
Yeah.
like picking 173 is a clever choice to make it feel like this is one of a number of them.
Yeah.
But you just said that there are over 5,000, almost 6,000 stories on that site. Like,
Yeah.
Whoa. But also, is all of this just springing forth from this particular photograph? You know what I mean?
Yeah, right.
If there weren't shutters in that photo, would you be writing about containing that statue?
right.
Therefore,
Yeah,
is
interesting.
all of the SCP Foundation a derivative work based off of this photograph of a sculpture by Izumi Kato?
A little bit.
A little bit.
Yeah.
It's kind of interesting.
Yeah.
So I did something similar to you. I started looking around. What are the scary ones? What are the fun ones? What are the people? What do people like the most?
Mm-hmm.
And I found a Reddit thread where a user whose name has since been deleted mentioned SCP-106 as, quote, an example of how far the Foundation goes to contain anomalies.
Okay.
Certainly piqued my curiosity.
Yeah. What have they done?
So this is the story that I sort of cited earlier. SCP-106 appears to be an elderly humanoid with a general appearance of advanced decomposition. This appearance may vary, but the rotting quality is observed in all forms. SCP-106 is not exceptionally agile and will remain motionless for days at a time, waiting for prey. Off of reading a little thing like that, and, I'm not going to read the full story. I'm going to truncate this.
Yeah.
But reading that general description first, I just got the impression zombie, right? Decay.
Yeah.
Doesn't move very fast.
Right.
It's a zombie, but no. The basic story is this. This rotting creature, I don't even know if it used to be human, it decays everything it touches, resulting in the Foundation needing to keep it in a lead-lined steel container, 40 layers of lead, as a matter of fact, because of how it can just burn through anything, really. SCP-106 can straight up gooify anything that it's in. And that any material it touches, if it's a human, you're going to die.
Yeah.
If it's a wall, it's eventually just going to be like covered in like black goo, like a rot. Like I almost picture it like a fungus or something like that.
So again, like in X-Men X2 United, what happened to that senator?
Yes, you're absolutely right.
Yeah,
the
he just,
senator
like-
turned into a goo man.
Yeah.
So they monitor this creature 24/7 to see if they need to replace the container that it's in. Here's where it gets even weirder. SCP-106 is said to be able to enter a pocket dimension. You may be observing it in the container it's in, and then it just blinks out of reality. It just disappears.
Uh-oh.
Yeah.
It could be touching anything.
Yes. Well, maybe not. It seems to go to someplace else. It still seems to be bound by the room it's in this dimension, but it can blink to somewhere else temporarily. They describe it at some point as if it looks like it's like dissolving into the wall, like David Copperfield going through the Great Wall of China.
Yeah.
It might disappear into a wall and then hours later reform coming out of the ceiling.
Oh, man.
So it sort of suggests that like it's still in some way bound by the container it's in this dimension, but it can go somewhere else.
Yeah.
And it will hunt people and sometimes take them to this other dimension, which is just supposed to be a big long hallway with doors.
Yeah.
The long hallway.
The long hallway.
Exactly. If they need to lure it into a new container, like I said, they will sacrifice somebody to do so. The point is, of all of this, the SCP is not afraid of sacrificing people to get things done.
Right.
And they will go to whatever lengths to contain individual things. Like SCP-106 has a very particular set of rules. They are prepared to meet the set of rules required by the monster to make sure that they can keep it locked down. Like I'd imagine that they would build a special container for a vampire versus how they contain a werewolf.
Yeah.
Like they will rise to the challenge presented to them. Now there is some like goofy stuff on here. We already mentioned that there's some comedy involved. I found a listing called SCP- blank 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 blank, no number. It is a rock that makes you procrastinate. The doctor filling out this report will finish it later. And that's
yeah.
right. Just done.
It's a tight little joke.
There's also some all things are subjective.
Sure.
There's some bad stuff.
Of course there is. If
there.
there are 5,900
Yes.
stories by just normal people, of course there are going to be some bad stuff.
Right. Like SCP-3008, the 3008th story, presumably, which is a physical space. Like you said, that they will go to a location if they cannot bring a monster in. So they could probably bring a vampire over. But for this place, it's a building.
Okay.
The whole thing is a building. So they've locked down the building. They've locked down the site this building is based on. It is a physical space that resembles an IKEA.
Don't tell me.
And it traps people inside.
Don't tell me.
There are humanoids inside that all look a little off.
Okay.
Like they're poor approximations of what people look like. They're a little too tall or too short. The imitation people might kill you. The exits of the IKEA are not in a fixed position, so you can just get lost in there forever. And there's a very long diary of a person who got trapped inside SCP-3008. It's very, very creative. But
There's
it's also
a book
like
that's very much like this called Horror Store by Grady Hendrix.
Oh, that's right. Who did My Best Friend's Exorcism
Yep.
as well, right? Those are like on my list for a million years.
It's good, but it's very gross.
Oh,
It
really?
grossed me out real bad.
Oh, okay. See, if that's like the point in and of itself, you're going to build a whole world there.
Yeah.
This as just a listing here.
Right.
Like a demonic IKEA is kind of out of left field. Like, what?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's part of this? Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
I deliberately looked up things based on numbers that carry significance.
Fun.
Right?
Yeah, I like that.
So I looked up SCP-13.
Uh-huh.
SCP-013. By the way, again, links to all of these in the show notes.
Yep.
If you want to go and read the full ones, because I'm not reading you the full stories here. But SCP-013, I expected to really play off of bad luck, bad omens. 13, right? It's a very significant number. Our 13th show, we just covered the number 13
Yes.
and all the
There's plenty.
the weight that's supposed to be behind that number. SCP-013 is a cigarette,
Okay.
or rather 242 cigarettes, as of their count, all with the words Blue Lady written on them. Blue Lady. Subjects, this is from the site, subjects who consume the contents of SCP-013 through inhalation will begin to perceive themselves.
Perceive themselves.
Will begin to perceive themselves as a specific unidentified woman. Subjects have described the woman to be aged between 25 and 35 years old, standing approximately 1.6 meters tall, with an estimated weight of between 50 and 55 kilograms. Kilograms?
I have no idea.
I don't know what kg abbreviates to. Would kilograms
guess
be like
it's kilograms.
really little?
I have absolutely no
I
idea.
have no idea. I'm too stupid to know.
Me too.
Additional recurring details include cropped dark hair, blue eyes, and bright blue lipstick. It seems that people who smoke these cigarettes think that they become this woman and will eventually kill themselves.
Okay.
I don't know if it really stands up to the weight of the 13th entry.
Yeah. Yeah, it just happened that way, I guess.
It's true. Here's one that I liked, that I picked for a very specific reason. SCP-147. Do you know why I've picked this one?
147.
147.
It's episode 147.
Right now it is Guide to the Unknown, episode 147.
That's right.
This one almost brings it to like a Harry Potter level of silliness. I
Okay.
think this is like something that would be in like the Hall of Mysteries. SCP-147 is a television. It is a 1957 General Electric brand black and white TV. And it must be kept in a room full of furniture manufactured no later than March of 1965.
Okay.
As long as it is placed in a room with its preferred time period, here is what they say. It will display broadcasts of 1950s era comedies such as The Burns and Allen Show, Father Knows Best, and I Love Lucy. In every case, each broadcast has been completely unique. Archives of programs, none of which are still being produced, have failed to find any record of the episodes that SCP-147 plays. No commercials are shown. There's no indication of what station would be broadcasting the shows. So it's playing impossible, unseen episodes of I Love Lucy.
Okay.
Here's the thing. Like I said, there's a rule here. It has to be in a room with stuff that's manufactured after March of 1965.
Right.
If you break that rule and walk in with something post-March of 1965, the screen will show only footage of torture, executions, and graphic content. It is said that it will make you vomit.
Oh.
People also then later, of course, killed themselves.
Yes.
It seems like the downside of a lot of these things are like, if it's mentally unfit, the way that they up the horror is just be like,
That's how they sum
many
it up.
people then just killed themselves.
Yeah.
Exactly. It looks like it can cater its material to its audience.
Okay.
So it's said that they tested this television on a violent offender, who then the television showed footage of botched executions. So it sort of was deliberately torturing
Oh, I see.
this offender by
Okay.
showing what might happen to him. So it's almost like it can torture its audience according to what it believes would scare them.
Oh, okay.
Right?
Okay, I gotcha. I thought you meant like the nice material was tailored to the audience. So it was somebody who was like a major like Desi Arnaz fan who was in that room.
No, not quite. But
Gotcha.
I do have this last account from this SCP from a Dr. Redacted. A lot of the stuff on this site is like black bars redacting pieces of information.
Makes it look all official.
So Dr. Redacted recently conducted an experiment in which he clothed himself with vintage pre-1965 articles of clothing with the caveat that he had 3 Bic Flair pens invented in the 1970s, in his shirt pocket.
Ah.
What he saw while seated in front of SCP-147, he would later describe as, quote, a bizarre episode of I Love Lucy featuring a surprising amount of gunplay.
Okay, so it kind of melded the things together, basically.
I guess it was
Made I Love
mostly
Lucy a little
satisfied.
violent. Yeah.
It was mostly satisfied, but something small broke the rule.
Yeah.
So there was, on the spectrum of things, it was still I Love Lucy, but they had guns.
Yeah.
So, again, see, like, there's like a silliness quality
Yes.
to that one in particular.
Yeah, for sure.
And-
You're right. The Hall of Mysteries is kind of like this in Harry Potter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're like collecting stuff there that
Mm-hmm.
can't be in, the public circulation. SCP-666. I had
Okay.
really high expectations for. SCP-666 is a yurt.
Oh.
It is a yurt in Tibet. It's all about substance abuse.
Oh.
For you see, if somebody with a history of drug or alcohol abuse enters the yurt, an entity will basically test their willingness
Oh my God.
to give up whatever substance. The entity just provides and provides and provides. If the person resists, no, do not give me that drug, the entity will eventually grant them freedom from that addiction.
Okay.
However, if they keep taking and taking and taking and show no signs of trying to give it up, the entity will bring them to the point of overdose.
This is entrapment.
It's entrapment. Yes, you're right.
Yeah.
Vaguely interesting?
Yeah.
666. I guess,
I think we can't look for.
We can't. It's
Yeah.
true. I know that we can't now, especially.
Yeah.
But, like, because it is user generated, so this might just be the 666th entry by happenstance rather
Right.
than by design.
Right.
But, like, I don't know. I still
I
wanted
know. It'd
to.
be cool if it was significant.
Yeah, it just
Yeah.
says, like, it's Satan.
Yeah,
It's Satan in a
This
room.
one is Satan.
Yeah. I tried to look up if SCP has already evolved into other media. I figured this is, I mean, quite frankly, ripe
Yeah.
for movies and
Certainly.
shows and what have you. I found that on IMDb they list SCP Pestilence as a movie coming out in 2020.
Okay. Time's a ticking.
Yeah, it's described on IMDb as secure, contain, protect. This has always been the goal of the SCP Foundation, to keep the Earth's population ignorant and safe from the world's anomalies.
Hey, what's that movie where Jeff Bridges and Ryan Reynolds are like cops for ghosts?
Right. R.I.P.D.
Yes.
Rest in peace,
Dude?
dude. Wait. LAPD is the Los Angeles Police Department,
Yeah,
so
so
it's
must
the
be-
Rest in Peace Department.
Yeah, I guess so.
R.I.P.D.
Yeah. I wonder if that movie's kind of like R.I.P.D.
I wonder if that movie's great.
I think that movie's great.
It's probably great. I haven't seen it, but it's,
That's why people always talk about it and how
great.
good it is.
yeah, you can never avoid people talking to you about R.I.P.D.
Right.
But when SCP-049 escapes from Site-19, hell is unleashed. I looked into this. SCP-049 is a pestilence mask
Okay.
doctor guy. You know the pestilence mask?
Yes, like a plague.
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
sorry, plague doctor with the long nose. It's
Yeah.
one of the most popular SCPs listed on the website.
Okay.
And so I guess that makes it like a good character
Yeah.
for a movie. I found that there's a whole page on the SCP site about licensing. Basically, everything they have up there they consider to be in the Creative Commons. Just don't be shady. Just don't copy this stuff wholesale.
Yeah.
And they're happy to have people spread the word and share and remix ideas in particular. They
That's
consider it
cool.
all to belong to everybody in a sense, which from a certain point of view makes it very hard to adapt these
Yeah.
things because they sort of belong to no one, but they still belong to somebody.
Yeah,
you know?
right. I guess you'd have to hunt down that person.
I guess they do make point of, and this makes sense, like let's say that you wanted to take a story and put it on the SCP website. Once you make SCP XXX, whatever
Yeah.
you made, you don't own that story anymore.
Right, right.
Your story is now part of SCP, but you may still own the underlying concept that brought you to that, to
Right.
write that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, right. It's a little tricky.
It's a little tricky. I did, however, find out that there's a game, a PC game called SCP Laboratory. Described as deep within the SCP Foundation during a containment breach, many of the anomalies have bypassed security and escaped from their chambers without peaceful intentions. Sorry.
Uh-oh.
wrong way of delivering it. Become site personnel, a recontainment agent, or an anomalous entity, and fight to take control or escape the facility.
Ooh.
It's free on PC. I downloaded it.
Oh, that's cool.
I've not played it yet.
Yeah.
There are actually a lot of SCP games.
Oh,
so
cool.
here's where my mind goes through all of this. Number one, it's awesome, and I definitely think I'm going to read more.
Mm-hmm.
Number two, I definitely would want to get more curated lists from people that go like, here are the best.
Right.
This
right.
was just too much.
Oh, totally.
But it makes me think Harry Potter Hall of Mysteries. Mm-hmm. There's also that weird Harry Potter Pokemon Go game where
Yep.
you are charged with capturing confoundables that are all over the map, and they may be stuff that are like arcane objects and things gone wrong.
Mm-hmm.
So an SCP game where you have to explore your environment to capture a thing.
Yeah.
It kind of feels like that.
Yeah, definitely.
It also makes me think of Twin Peaks, where it's like, you imagine like Josie
Yeah.
getting trapped in that drawer pull.
That would definitely be an SCP.
Right? Just
Yes.
like a lady's spirit is trapped in a dresser drawer.
I guess you contain that by just putting like a mason jar over the drawer pull.
Perfect. There you go. It's contained.
Done deal. Some duct tape around it.
Also in the Ghostbusters video game, which was re-released this year for Switch and PS4 and stuff, it's a total optional collectible, but in levels you might come across like a haunted pair of pants.
Oh, okay.
And when you scan it, it ends up in the Ghostbusters firehouse, and there's a whole story about why the pants were haunted or who first saw them, stuff like that.
Yeah.
It made me think of that.
Were they the haunted pants that Dan Aykroyd was wearing in that one part?
Oh, when his belt comes unbuckled?
Yes.
Yikes.
Seriously, they're not?
No.
Okay.
No, they're like haunted bell bottoms.
Yeah.
No, everyone wants to forget that.
I'm about to say, you probably don't want to draw attention to
They
that now that I
didn't
think
program
about it.
that into a video game.
No.
Well, I think the game developers didn't want to draw attention to it. I think Dan Aykroyd was fine with it.
I think you're probably right.
We're going to need this scene in the movie. Promise. Promise me that it'll make it. I think that one of the first things that it makes me think is like, this could really be a cabin in the woods type
Yeah.
dealio.
Yeah, where there's a government agency that's managing these things.
But not just that. I think it's got to be a little funny. I think you need a
Oh, well,
Bradley
definitely,
Whitford.
yeah.
It's like the Indiana Jones warehouse. How many arcane objects are in there?
It's like Men in Black.
It's like Men in Black. I think there's so much that you could do with this that it's funny because my mind immediately starts going to like, all right, audio drama of
Right.
these things. I bet that there are SCPs that are specifically horrifying from an audio perspective.
Yeah.
Web comics, regular print comics, movies and TV shows. And the more that I started thinking about those things and getting excited about it, I was like, maybe it's already perfect.
Yeah.
Maybe there are too many other things that this is already like, where it's like, if you want your fix of things like that, hey, go listen to The Long Hallway. I wrote an episode called The Warehouse, which is about a warehouse full of stuff like this and how do people handle it.
Yeah, The Long Hallway is an audio drama podcast that Will has voice acted on, written for, produced, directed. You can find it in your podcast app right now. And they are short episodes. Short. Kipper
Short.
Ned, short name.
Yep, totally short names. They're like
Yep.
7 minutes long. I directed every episode that's presently out there. But like maybe there are plenty of things that can give you that
Yeah.
fix in movies and stuff. Maybe SCP as a pure art form of collective people doing stuff.
Yeah.
Maybe it needs to be exactly this and nothing more.
Yeah, that's true.
I would argue that anyone wanting to touch this would have to write a movie that treats everything on the website as canon.
Yeah.
That all is there, and it's all real.
Yeah.
Now, here's a movie that's about a specific corner of that universe. Don't reboot it. Don't
Right.
tell the origin of it. Everyone, this
Don't
is
change what it's about.
right. I think that anyone creating a story of this would have that compulsion to be like, well, let's figure out how it started. What was the first one?
Yeah.
No. Forget that. It already exists. It has existed since 2007 when somebody wrote SCP-173. All of that has to be fact. Build your movie on top of it.
Yeah, I like that idea.
Because that also,
It honors it.
it honors it, and it makes sure that the people who love it today don't hate the new thing that you
Yes.
wrote.
Yeah, it still acknowledges it and like leaves the original thing relatively unchanged.
Right. I would love to see extensions of this.
Yeah.
Not things that, purport to tell the right version. Or
Right.
the good version. Or clean up
Yeah, clean
what
up.
all of these people on the internet have built.
Yeah, it's cool. It's its own thing. It's a very like, I don't know, like freewheeling kind of hippie thing where it's just like add stuff if you want. If we like it, it kind of gets boosted. If not,
Yep.
maybe it'll fall. It's all in this collective Creative Commons thing.
It's super cool.
Yeah.
I can't think of anything else that's really anything like this on this scope.
Right.
No.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
All right.
There you go.
There you go, guys.
SCP Foundation. Now we
Yes.
know what it is.
Yes, I seriously had no idea. Thank you so much to our patrons who suggested it. It ended up being super, super cool.
It was really fun to read. There were a lot of other stories that I read and didn't end up using here just because I felt like I had other examples that really made the case
Right.
of what this is. But it is really fun. Go to the SCP Foundation website, which is scpwiki.com.
Yep.
Go there, click the random button. Go to gttupod.com, get our show notes for this episode. You can read the actual stories that we've referred to here, so you
Yep.
can do a deeper dive for yourself. Really, really fun. There's so much there to be mined.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah.
So until next week, you know where to find us. We told you in the middle of the show. One thing that we didn't mention is that we have a spin-off podcast of this show called Ghost Adventures Adventures, where we recap that show, so you can check that out. And until next time, you can find us individually online. I am at Chillin' Kristen.
I am at The Myth Traveler.
And make sure you go check out It's Haunted Now What, that podcast that we played a promo for in the middle.
That's right, yeah. But thank you all so much for hanging out with us. We will definitely be back next week to talk about more spooky tales.
Spooky tales.
Spooky Tales. That should have been the name of this podcast, Spooky Tales. But until that time comes, we must travel.
Back to the netherworld go we. Clear.
And we're clear.
And it's done.
It's done. Somebody should write an SCP that is us.
Oh my God.
Right?
What would it be?
A sibling duo.
Don't go near them.
You just hear laughter coming from one of the doors, and they say, just don't
There's
go in there.
There's a basement with incessant talk and laughter that
Yeah.
can't be stopped.
It's just a very loud room.
Right. So
Yeah.
just close the door to that room. That's the containment for it.
Yeah.
Maybe also people listening to us is containing because it's appeasing us.
Ooh, maybe everybody who walks by starts laughing. And they can't control themselves because whatever's in that room is so goddamn hilarious.
They can't stop having the best time.
They're annoyed at how perfect the comedy coming out of that room is.
Unbelievable.